One of Hollywood's most famous actors, Jack Nicholson, was born on April 22, 1937 in New York City to John and Ethel May Nicholson. He lived with his parents and two sisters, Lorraine and June, in a modest home on 1601 Monroe Street in Neptune, New Jersey. However, things weren't quite as they seemed. There was a deep, dark secret that had to be kept from Jack at all costs. The truth was, John and Ethel May Nicholson were not Jack's parents, but in fact his grandparents. The girl he knew as his sister, June, was in all actuality his mother. In the early 1930s, June was attempting to start a career in dancing. She met a dancing instructor named Eddie King and began taking lessons with him at his dance studio in Asbury Park. Soon the two were touring the country together. It was also around this time that June met and began having a relationship with an Italian dancer named Donald Fusillo Rose. In 1936, June learned that she was pregnant, and believing that Donald Rose was the father, the two skipped town and were married in Elkton, Maryland. However, June had no choice but to return to Neptune and confront her mother with the news that she was pregnant. Ethel May did not take the news well. She ordered Donald Rose out of June's life and decided to have it kept secret that June was pregnant. John and Ethel May would raise the child as their own, and June would be known to the child as a sister. This was a secret that each vowed never to reveal, and one that they would all take to their graves. Jack Nicholson had a relatively normal childhood in Neptune, New Jersey. Soon after he was born, the family moved to a nicer home on 1410 6th Avenue. He attended grammar school in Neptune and would spend his summers on the Jersey Shore, or watching a movie in the nearby Paramount Theater in Bradley Beach. When Jack was 7, he moved again to a house on 2 Steiner Street, which is near the Shark River. In 1943, Jack was confirmed as a Catholic in Avon, New Jersey at St. Elizabeth's. This picture showing Jack on the far right holding the card of the Virgin Mary is one of the only spots in a childhood picture that can be located today. Here are the same steps that Jack was standing on in 1943. Note the numbers on the left pole. However, in a more recent shot, the numbers that were a staple of that post for so long have been removed. When Jack was 14 years old, he moved again, this time to the nearby town of Spring Lake. This made him eligible to attend Manasquan High School, which was a step up from the high school in Neptune. Jack's former classmates described him as very smart and very outgoing. He always liked to tell jokes and make everyone laugh. Jack was so smart that he was able to skip a grade and graduated high school a year early in 1954. That same summer became a turning point in young Jack's life. He spent his time lifeguarding in Bradley Beach, even making the Asbury Park Press for saving the lives of a few swimmers. Jack was very conflicted about what he wanted to do with the remainder of his life. In September 1954, without telling any of his friends, Jack Nicholson picked up and left New Jersey for Hollywood to start a long, successful career in acting. He never looked back. In July 1955, Jack's grandfather, who he believed was his father, passed away at Jersey Shore Medical Center, then known as Fitkin Hospital. Alcohol was believed to be a contributing factor to John Nicholson's death. Jack did not fly back to New Jersey to attend the funeral. His excuse was that he did not have enough funds to make the trip. However, it was far more likely he was unable to face John's death. I found John Nicholson's obituary tucked away in the archives of the Asbury Park Press. It indicated that Jack was his son and said that he was living in Los Angeles, California. According to the death notice, John Nicholson was buried in Mount Calvary Cemetery just off Route 66 in Neptune. However, after numerous calls to the cemetery office and a quick search of the grounds, I have been unable to get in touch with someone who can help me locate his grave. In July 1963, June, Jack's mother, died of cancer at a hospital in California. Jack was off to film a movie when he went to the hospital with his sister Lorraine to say goodbye. Once the elevator doors closed, Jack fell to the ground sobbing. Even on her deathbed, June was unable to reveal that she was really Jack's mother. As for the reason why, no one will ever know. Once again, Jack was missing at the funeral ceremony when June was buried in California. June's death notice also appeared in the Asbury Park Press. It lists that June had some children, however Jack is of course listed as a brother and not as a son. In early January 1970, Ethel May Nicholson passed away from cancer in Neptune. Like June, she did not reveal the truth to Jack. She had long ago moved out of Spring Lake and had been living at the Gables apartment complex number 49 on Walnut Street. There was a ceremony at the Dangler Funeral Home in Belmar. This is a picture today of the spot where the funeral home once stood. It was tore down long ago and has been replaced by this house. Jack was out of excuses and returned to New Jersey to attend his grandmother's ceremony. Ethel May was buried at a cemetery in the nearby town of Tinton Falls. No obituary ran in the Asbury Park press, just a small, obscure death notice that was once again careful to list Jack Nicholson as Ethel May's son. By this time, Jack was an emerging Hollywood star with the success of his new film, Easy Rider. However, Ethel never realized how successful he had become. I visited the cemetery in which Ethel is buried. It turned out to be an unmarked grave. One of the women who has been working at the cemetery since 1965 told me that she knew Jack as a boy and called it a, quote, shame that his grave was unmarked. She said that they once tried to get a marker but failed, but would not tell me why Jack refuses to have a marker placed at the gravesite. Perhaps it is for privacy reasons. The woman also did not clear up the mystery as to why John J. Nicholson is not buried next to his wife. As she put it, quote, there was never a father figure in Jack's life. In 1974, a reporter who planned to write an article for Time magazine went to the New Jersey shore and uncovered the shocking truth about who Jack's parents really were. Jack was stunned and did not take the news well. He told the director of the movie he was working on to keep a close eye on him because he had just learned some tragic news. While all this was happening, the man who believed he was Jack Nicholson's father was still living in New Jersey, hoping to one day be able to meet the actor. One night in 1979, Donald Rose's phone rang in his Ocean Grove home. On the line was Jack Nicholson. The conversation was pleasant, and Jack told Don that he was thinking about getting together with him to catch up on all that had been lost. However, when the months turned into years and there was no response from Jack, Donald Rose wondered what he had done wrong. Donald Rose began to write letters to Jack in the early 1980s, hoping that he would be able to meet his son. However, he was met with only a cease and desist order from Jack's lawyer. Jack said in an interview later that Donald Rose was a fraud and that if he was the father, he wanted to know where he had been all his life. Sadly, Donald Rose never met Jack and died in the mid-1990s. It is unclear for sure if he truly was the father. Some say the father may have been June's other love interest, Eddie King. However, if you compare a picture of Donald to one of Jack Nicholson today, there are indeed some striking similarities. But the same can be true by comparing a picture of Eddie King to Jack Nicholson. A few years ago, the town of Neptune thought about putting a plaque on the main house that Jack lived in as a child. However, in the end, the idea was voted down. As the chairman of the board said, quote, we are wasting far too much of our time on Jack Nicholson. There is virtually nothing left of Jack's childhood in New Jersey, but he did make a surprise appearance at his 50th high school reunion in Manasquan. However, Jack rarely visits the state. As some would say, he has a love-hate relationship with Neptune. Once Jack was asked about his time in New Jersey, and he said this, quote, you have no idea what it's like to live in New Jersey until you move out. In many ways, it's the most feudal state in the nation. However, Jack's opinion of the state might have a lot to do with the fact that he sees his time here as nothing but a big lie. Jack might not be the only person in the family who was lied to about who his parents were. It has recently come to light that John Jay, Jack's grandfather, may have been adopted. If true, this means that Jack Nicholson doesn't have a single drop of Nicholson blood in him.